Patreon was just crushed in court, and they might lose their business. And we're back, Mike Cernovich, Cernovich.com, with a little bit of legal reporting about the Patreon case. It is a little quirky in terms of the law involved, but it's interesting. Strap in, pay a little bit of attention. So Patreon, like every other website, has terms of service. And these terms of service limit your rights as a consumer. Under the terms of service, all class actions are banned and all claims must be arbitrated individually. That matters. That matters a lot. A lot. And I'll tell you why. So if you're a Patreon user, you can't file a class action. You have to go to arbitration by yourself. Okay. Those are the rules. So what happened was Owen Benjamin was banned from Patreon. Owen Benjamin was banned from Patreon. Here's why that matters. Under California law, when you do arbitration, the big guy, the company, has to pay your fees. So Owen Benjamin got banned from Patreon, and then hundreds of his fans, who they call the Bears, filed individual arbitration actions against Patreon. Under a new California law, Patreon has to pay each arbitration fee up front. That varies from $2,500 to $10,000. That's not legal fees. That's just jams fees. That's just arbitration fees. So Patreon, when they have all these arbitration demands, hundreds, Patreon now has to go 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 2,500, 5,000, depending on the amount of money. But you can see the numbers get really big quickly. Patreon goes, holy shit, our terms of service actually don't apply. And they went and they sued all the Bears who had moved for arbitration. Isn't that something? So Patreon said in its terms of service, you have to seek arbitration only. You can't sue us in court, and you can't do class actions or group actions one-on-one. So then when the Bears followed the procedures, Patreon then went and sued them all. They saw it was called an injunction in California court. So when I saw that happen, I go, well, they're going to lose. Patreon's going to lose the case. But the social justice reporters like, LOL, Owen Benjamin gets his fans sued. They're going to lose in court. Like, no, they're not. Just under pretty clearly established California law, they're not. And sure enough, there was a hearing that I reported on deeply. You can read the Twitter account of it. The judge just issued his final ruling today. Preliminary injunction denied. In other words, Patreon lost this lawsuit. So the exact terminology would be Patreon's motion for a preliminary injunction has been denied. In just layman's terms, it means they lost their lawsuit. So what does this mean? All those arbitrations are going to go forward. Patreon is going to have to write some big checks for legal fees, for arbitration fees. We're talking $5, $10, $15, $20 million. And they're also going to face arbitrations because Patreon unilaterally altered their terms of service in a way that's illegal under California law. So a number of people, myself included, may sue Patreon because as a consumer of Patreon, I have rights, and Patreon unilaterally altered its terms of service in a way that was unconscionable under California law, right? So Patreon, if enough creators move if 100 creators move for arbitration against Patreon right now, which they could do under California law, then Patreon would be bankrupt. I don't want them to go bankrupt. I think Patreon does a huge service. I'm very conflicted here. I'm hugely conflicted here for a number of reasons. One is that a lot of people's livelihoods are based on Patreon. Two is most people don't even know I have a Patreon, because if I tell people, then that'll get attention and then people will try to ban me. So Patreon does discriminate against people, but it would be a net bad for society for Patreon to go out of business. So that's why I said, I can see things, because I'm not like a lot of you narcissists. I can see things from all the perspectives. I think it's unfair the way Patreon treats certain people, but on balance, they're net good. So I would hate to see Patreon go out of business. A lot of their livelihoods literally based that. But the flip side is, how does Patreon allow El Chapo Trap House but not Owen Benjamin, right? Have you ever listened to Come Town or El Chapo Trap? This isn't me trying to get El Chapo Trap House or Come Town canceled. But, Owen Benjamin posts a lot of things that friends send me, and I'm like, hey, man, just because I know a guy, I don't need to keep me out of his bullshit, keep me out of his bullshit. A lot of people post a lot of things, I'm not some fucking content cop. But if you're going to let on Come Town, El Chapo Trap House, what's Owen Benjamin say worse than them? Because that's how it's supposed to work, right? The way tech was set up and the reason they got all these immunities under Section 230 is you're going to say, well, we're not going to allow people. If Patreon just said you can't say fuck, then a lot of people would complain, but they would say, okay, so if you're a liberal or conservative, you can't say fuck. Fine. Okay. That's a dumb rule, but it's a rule. But instead what Patreon says is, well, Owen Benjamin makes some really crude remarks. He's banned. But all these left-wing podcasts say they hate white men. They say they want to kill white people. They say real hate speech. And, oh, no, but we'll allow them. It's like, no. If you ban everyone who says anything hateful against any group, then fine. I'm okay with that. Right? I'm okay with that. But that means the left would get crushed. Because us on the right, we might talk about facts that are objectionable, but we don't feel hate. We don't say, destroy, kill people who are minorities or whatever. But that's all coming from the left. So what they do is they play this rig game like Patreon where they want the full protection of the law. But then they want to say, well, we're gonna ban Carl, because a lot of people confuse Owen Benjamin from Carl Benjamin. Sargon of Akkad's different. Sargon of Akkad, by the way, if he wanted to, could bankrupt Patreon right now. If he had his fans file arbitration actions in the way that Owen Benjamin did, Patreon's bankrupt. That's not hype. Let's just look at the money they raised. Patreon raised $50 million at, I think, a $500 million valuation. $50 million doesn't last as long as you think it would at a company like that at scale. So if a Sargon of Akkad told his followers, hey, let's rock and roll, man. Let's do the same things that Owen Benjamin's fan base is doing. That's it. It'd be over for Patreon. So they are in an existential threat. That's for sure. The broader point, though, and this is why I'm conflicted, is why is it that I have to worry about if they'd ban my Patreon so I don't even talk about it? Most people are like, how do I support your work? It's like, well, if I link out to my Patreon, then I'll get banned. So I'd rather have some like shitty amount of money that I get from there that's guaranteed than like do this. But I don't know, maybe I'll sue them myself. But that's the point. Why do you have to think this way if you're viewed as conservative or populist? Why does Sargon of Akkad get banned? Because he said the N-word to mock Nazis. Sargon of Akkad got banned from Patreon because he said to some neo-Nazis, hey, all the stuff that you attribute to the N-word, you do. So aren't you the N-word? And they were white people. So he wasn't even using it in a racially derogatory way towards black people. He was just literally saying, like Richard Spencer, for example, is a deadbeat dad. So these guys go on and on about white values and white culture and how everybody else isn't doing the white culture thing. It's like, yeah, but you're a fucking deadbeat dad. So then why aren't you that word you call other people? Right? That's the question is, why aren't you, if you're going to call other people that word because of how they live their lives, then why aren't you that word? And that's what Sargon of Akkad was saying, but he got banned for that. Okay, you think the left isn't dropping in bombs left and right? I mean, come on, get real here, right? So Sargon of Akkad just used a word to attack neo-Nazis, and he got banned. But the far left can say whatever they want, but meanwhile, Patreon's like, oh, we're even keel. We don't discriminate based on blah, blah, blah. This is the thing. We're tired of the gaslighting. That we're just over the fucking gaslighting. And that's why people are getting pissed off. Right-wing people, populist people. Tucker, did you see Tucker go off on Jim Jordan? Like, we're all, to use the word that we, not me, because I think, oh, you trigger snowflake. I think that's kind of stupid and glib, and I don't use that. It's like if you're an asshole to a person and that asshole, right? If you're an asshole to someone and that person gets mad, are you triggered? No, you're being a fucking asshole and you would get your ass beat in another time, right? That's not, you triggered them. It's called you're a fucking asshole. And people don't like people who are disrespectful and mean-spirited, right? So then the question is that, and that's why Tucker went off on Jim Jordan, we're fucking tired of being treated like dipshits. We're tired of being treated like fucking assholes. We're tired of being treated by people like Jim Jordan, like he's going to do something. And then when I release that memo, it all goes away. Don't ask about General Flynn. We're talking about Patreon, okay? That triggers me because that's called you're being a fucking asshole. I'm doing a specific topic, talking about a specific topic, and then you want to side reel it. You're an asshole, right? And maybe you don't have people in your life who tell you that you have poor social skills. And so that's why Tucker's going off on Jim Jordan. People are getting fucking pissed. And it's people on my side. It's the kind of people like me. You probably don't want to see me angry, right? You probably don't want to see the people like us angry. It's probably better. We want to keep the peace. We want things to be cool. We want things to be good. We want things to be smooth. But we're being actively targeted, actively discriminated against, actively having our livelihoods destroyed. And Tucker shows the rage, and the rage is going against Republicans too. That's something to keep in mind. So we're fucking over all of it. We're over all the bullshit. That's just what I'll say. As peacefully as I can say, we're over all the bullshit. We're over it from Jim Jordan, who wants to be the next Trey Gowdy or Lindsey Graham. TikTok. The Hannitys of the world are out. Tucker's the future, and then people who are angrier. Maybe I'm angrier than Tucker. I don't think I am. I think I'm a pretty guy trying to keep the peace. But the nonstop gaslighting, the lying, the mocking. Charlie Kirk loses a friend and mentor, and then saying, LOL, Herman Cain dies, and you're laughing. You think we don't see that stuff? Right? You think we don't see that stuff? There was a guy, Michael Brooks. He died, 36 years old. He used to regularly do videos making fun of how I talk. Oh, we're going to do our Cernovich impersonation contest. He's done multiple. He's a nasty fucking guy. You know what I thought when he died? 36 years old, fucking died. God, his parents must be really sad, you know? His friends must be. That's where my heart goes. Is not that this guy deserved to die because he would make fun of me. But my first thought was 36. Shit. 36? Fuck. Just that young? I wonder what happened. Imagine his friends and family are sad. If you're like right wing, that's where your heart goes. You're just like, wow, what a sad thing to happen. And if you're left wing and someone dies, you're thinking, how can I weaponize this? How can I mock this person for dying? How can I attack Charlie Kirk, whose friend died? That's where your head goes? That's really, oh yeah, we can get this guy. That's where your fucking head goes. And then you want to dare call me a conspiracy theorist when I say they want us dead. They want us in death camps. They want us in gulags. Oh, you're just I'm exaggerating. Look at what they're saying today about Herman Cain. Look what they were saying today about Charlie Kirk and yesterday about Charlie Kirk. They think it's funny. They think it's funny that people died alone in hospitals of coronavirus, of COVID. They think it's a joke. And people like me, we see that. And we're fucking over it. And we're fucking over the pussy shit from Jim Jordan and the fakers and everyone else who thinks they're getting away with it. Not going to happen. Jim Jordan got a wake-up call, that's for sure. And the whole GOP needs a wake-up call. We're all fucking over it. We're tired of this bullshit. We're tired of being gaslit by everybody. Anyway, Patreon lost. They should have lost. The law was clear. If Sargon of Akkad wants to have his fans go after Patreon, that's it. Their company will not be able to sustain that legal bleed. That'll be the end of Patreon. Thanks for watching. Mike Cernovich, cernovich.com. Patreon lost.